Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is all about bending and I'm gonna show you how I like to bend and how I'm teaching my students how to bend. This is really important. Even if you're an intermediate or an advanced player, definitely make sure to watch this video because I'm sure you're gonna get something out of it. Without further ado, let's jump into the guitar and let's do some bending. Alright, let me show you how to bend. And before we start playing on the guitar, I want you to imagine that this little bone you have here, that connects your palm to the index finger. Essentially, we want to use this little bone almost as a pivot point, and we want to rest this underneath the neck. And essentially what you want to do is you want to use it as a pivot point almost. Think about it like that. You want to keep the contact always with the guitar, and then you want to go left and right, almost like twisting your forearm rather than the wrist. Right? What I want you to do now is I want you to play with your index finger the 7th fret on the G string. And what I want you to do is I want you to think that pivot point, and I want you to take the bend, keep your index finger as stable as possible, and essentially do this movement of you're taking away the palm from the neck. Don't worry about the pitch just yet. I want you to really understand where the movement is coming from. If you see my wrist, I don't have my wrist bent or anything. My wrist is relaxed and stable, and essentially I'm scooping down, I'm pulling down, almost like thinking that movement in my hand. If you were to do the same thing with the second finger, follows exactly the same thing, but with the help of the index finger as well. Third finger exactly the same as the second. And then the pinky, same thing. I tend to not bend with my pinky because it's not as strong, but you can definitely practice that. That was bending down, which is really useful to do, especially when it comes to vibrato. I'm gonna talk about the vibrato in a different video, but the other option is to bend up. So take the same 7th fret on the G string with your index finger. Instead of going down, maybe go up. And essentially you want to reverse the movement. Essentially you want to scoop in almost. Right? I hope it makes sense. Give it a little bit of, it's a trial and error really. I want you to think that everything comes from the shoulder to the forearm to the wrist to the finger. It's not the finger that is doing the bend, it's everything else. So a really important thing to remember is to not rest your elbow in your knee or in the chair. Keep it loose so it's engaged. As you can see, I'm not moving my index at all. When it comes to the second finger, it's exactly the same story as before. Now you will realize that the second finger has more power than the index finger, which is something we really can utilize. But again, I'm not moving my finger much. Maybe a tiny bit to adjust, but not much. How about the third? Same thing. As you can see, I'm moving my wrist and my forearm more than anything. Same thing with the pinky. It's really important to understand the pitch as well, and making sure to bend the notes to reach a specific pitch. I would highly recommend starting practicing bends with half-step bends and then going to full-step bends and then to 3-step bends. What a half-step bend is, essentially you want to reach the next available note. So if I were to play the G string on the 7th fret, my target note is the 8th fret on the G string. That's my target note, so I want to go back to one note and then play that note. And it's good to play the original note to check within yourself if it's what's the sound of the pitch, and then play the bend. You can do this with any string really, and anywhere in the neck. I would highly recommend, if you were to practice this, starting with somewhere around the 10 or the 12th fret of the guitar, because this is where I find the guitar has the least amount of tension when it comes to bending the strings. If you go up here in the neck, it's going to be really tough to bend the strings, as well as here because the frets are too small really. So bending is really important because it's such a unique technique to everybody. Me and you, we're gonna bend the strings slightly different. The technique might be the same, but the way you're gonna approach the bend, how long you're gonna take to bend the note, or how long you're gonna stay the note before you come back, and all of these little nuances really dictate and really make your own unique sound, and that's really important. If you're an artist and if you wanna create your own voice and create beautiful solos, bending is such an important tool to master, and I highly recommend spending a lot of time practicing bending and really keeping an eye on your bending and pitch and how the technique is. Something really important to note is that if you feel any pain apart from the fingertips, if you feel any pain in your thumb or the forearm or your wrist or your shoulder even, do me a favor and stop for an afternoon, stop for a day or two, especially with bending, and come back to it. You can really hurt yourself if the technique is wrong. So if you feel any pain, please stop, take some rest, and come back the next day or the following day. It's so important. I cannot stress enough how important this is, and how I was struggling as well when I was learning how to bend. I've learned how to bend wrong, and then I had to relearn how to bend correctly, and that took almost a year to really understand how I was bending and what I was doing wrong really. So take your time and be patient, and it's gonna come and it's gonna click for you. But let me show you a very practical way to practice your bend. Remember, you can do this exercise with all of the fingers, and I will highly recommend practicing bending with each finger individually. So Mondays index finger, Tuesdays middle finger, and then so on and so forth. Or maybe half an hour of the index finger and then half an hour of the second finger, half an hour of the ring finger. You can really customize this exercise, and let me show you how it goes. When I was practicing bending, it took me 4 months to really understand the technique and how I was doing the bends and what I was doing wrong and how I should bend. And I came up with this little exercise. It's really simple, but it's really effective. You can start it from anywhere in the neck, and you can always use it with a metronome, but I'm gonna show it without a metronome. Essentially, it almost stems from what we've talked about before. Let's take the 7th fret on the G as we did before. And let's say we want to practice our index finger bending. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play the 7th fret as it is. I'm gonna play the next note with my second finger, and then I'm gonna go back to the index finger, and I'm gonna bend the note to reach the target note. Meaning, and then if I'm happy with it, I'm gonna try to keep the bend as long as possible. It depends on the sustain of your guitar as well, but what I'm aiming for is to find the balance of where the string doesn't slip underneath my fingers like that. Can you hold the string for 30 seconds, 10 seconds? It doesn't really, you don't have to hold it for a minute, but if you're in the place of you know how to bend and you can feel the string under your finger, you can hold the bend really well and really solid. So every time you're bending, you want to have the same feeling. And what I'm gonna do after that, I'm gonna go everything one step forward, one fret forward. I'm gonna do exactly the same. Keep it for a little bit. Go to the next fret, and then keep it for a little bit, next one, and then you can keep going. Once your index finger is in pain and you cannot really bend anymore, you can go back to the second finger and do exactly the same thing, but adjust for the fingers. So if I'm gonna bend with my second finger, I'm gonna play the target note with my ring finger, then come back, and then bend. Same thing applies to whatever we've talked about for the index finger. Hold for a minute. Same goes with the third finger as well. I would say practice the pinky. The way to do it is slide. But again, it's up to you if you want to practice your pinky or not. Anyway, thank you for watching and I hope you got something out of it. Bending is such an important technique to master, and take your time and be really patient and really practice your bends. The more you do it, the better it will become. One little tip I can give you is when you're learning or when you're practicing the bending, try to stick with one guitar instead of switching from one to another, because each guitar will have a different tension, so it will feel a bit different. So sometimes we might go a bit more or a bit less when it comes to bending. So practicing everything in one guitar might be the best way to practice these things. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking around to the end. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to get notified every time I upload a new video. If you have any comments or any thoughts, make sure to drop them below, or even if you have any suggestions for upcoming videos, I'd love to hear from you, and I will see you on the next one.